So we're continuing with part two. I'm hoping part one recorded. I'm just thinking, I don't know if it didn't say it did, but anyway, we're
I'm sure it did.
continuing with part two
I'm sure.
because we're talking some really interesting things about Lyme. There's so much we don't know about it. It was patented. It it may not just be in these bugs. What do they call them again?
Ticks.
Ticks. It may not just be in ticks. It's a patent. It has to be activated. One man's theory has to be activated by EMF, electromagnetic
Well, that's
fields.
what seems to make it kind of flourish and really go rampant
Okay.
in people.
What we
But
were just
that's a big one. I don't know if it's one that actually, is where it
captures
came
it.
from, but
Yeah.
it's something that makes it worse. That's for sure. And I know
Okay.
that for myself, but
But if
once I started
something,
to deal with my environment,
yeah,
so to say, I
yeah.
noticed my symptoms really started to get get better.
So, but what I want to say is, if it's patented, that means it's non-native, non-natural, not in nature.
Right,
It's created.
right.
So
Artificially.
yeah, so it we were almost talking about how that's similar to the CVID. We don't want to say the word, but
That's right.
CVID nowadays, right?
Right.
And how
Right.
maybe if CVID is like Lyme in that it's patented, and can it be activated then by EMF?
These are some serious questions that we need to ask.
Yes.
You talk to a conventional scientist, maybe a physicist or something along those lines, would say no, it's impossible.
Yeah.
You know, so we really got to dig deeper into that.
Yeah.
And one way I think that we need to do that is to really ask the question if whether or not we truly understand the nature of electricity fundamentally. This is where
Ah.
it goes to,
Ah.
because it's all electromagnetic radiation in the environment here, right?
Yeah.
So do we have an accurate understanding of this? And I question that. I would say possibly not, because our understanding of electricity today, really, if you trace it back far enough, it goes back to kind of into the realm in the mind, the thinking mind of kind of like the Einstein world. That kind of ideology is kind of where, how our understanding of electricity kind of where it came from.
Okay, so just can you
So
summarize Einstein, oh, I can't even say his name, his
Einstein,
thoughts, yeah, his theory
his
of
theory was
relativity.
it's relativity.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, everything, all motion is relative, right? There needs to be kind of two entities involved in order to understand anything that moves, right? Like, for example, this can of Coke, we can understand its motion relative to something else,
Yes.
right? There's got to be kind of two entities involved in that. And that was kind of his way of thinking at the time. So our understanding of electricity is the same, right?
Except for Tesla, no?
Tesla was a little different.
Yes.
He didn't look at it that way.
Mm.
His ideas of motion fundamentally were not so much relative, they were more going towards the absolute place.
Oh.
That there's really, you look at motion as a holistically, as a whole, it's one moving cosmos. Nothing's
Mm.
relative here.
Mm.
And if we think it's relative, it essentially means that we're not connected to that universal cosmos. We're not connected to it at the being level, so we don't see it that way. Do you understand what I'm
Oh,
saying?
well, I was just going to ask. My way of thinking is this. So if it's relative, it means on a micro level, whatever happens to a being is relative to them. It's not a macro level like Tesla's, which
Right.
involved the whole universal
100%.
concept, right? Of oneness or a
100%.
so that's
Holistic.
the
It was
difference.
a holistic science.
That's
What he
the
was.
difference.
Yes.
Relativity is sort of subjective.
Yes.
It depends, who and when and what.
100%.
But universal is all one.
You need a reference point.
Yeah.
You have to have a reference point.
Okay. So
whereas the reference
did I get
point,
it? I
yes.
don't know. Yeah. Okay.
The reference point, I think, from what Tesla was working on was essentially the universal mind of the divine. That would be the reference point.
Wow.
And to
that's
see
big.
that, to see electricity from that perspective, we were going to a different level here.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't. Your relativistic mind is not going to help you here.
So is that where you
Right.
go? Is that where you go?
That's where I am intrigued to go.
Mm.
Yes.
And can
So-
you explain then, if that's where you're interested in going, how does that factor in with water? Because I know you're fascinated by water.
100%.
And
Yeah.
how does it go into frequency? Like all these places that you're saying that divine
Yeah.
kind of mind goes into. It's
Yeah.
frequency related, it's water, it's nature. Yeah.
And it's resonance fundamentally. That's how something like the true essence of experience is it's in that. It's
Yeah.
in the nature of resonance, of
Yeah.
how we even actually experience anything in front of us right now. There's
Yeah.
something much
We
deeper.
see it due to our like what we're
Yes.
resonating at.
Yes, we
So
see it in
how
our
do we
mind.
see it the same way, you and me?
What see what
Like
the,
see that this is a table. Do you see that that's a table?
I see that this is a table.
So how do like our frequencies then? What does that mean about our frequencies in relation to this?
Well, we kind of have to look at it from the perspective as like, how do we see
Yes.
anything?
Yes.
Because all this is just something that's being
Matter.
it's in our mind, right? This is what's
But you and I both see the same thing.
we do.
That's what always freaks me out.
Is it possible that all of us are looking in at this physical world from somewhere universal?
Probably.
We may not, there's a lot of conditions here that we need to talk about because there's, a lot of subjective aspects to this, but I'm just talking about the very basic level of physical reality that you get to is really that all the stuff in the physical world, it takes up space. I think that's the most basic understanding that we can get to. So it comes down to geometry fundamentally.
See, I love
Right?
sacred geometry. The looks
It is.
yeah.
Because when something takes up space, there's a geometric shape to that,
And
obviously.
that's universal, right?
True.
Sacred geometry is very universal.
True. Now we can take this a little bit deeper into the non-physical world too, right? Because, well, even like I'm waving my hand through something right now,
Yeah.
we would call that air. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, we get a little interruption here from
Yeah,
our plumber.
we're doing plumbing.
But the
so-
air you can't see. But we know it takes up space because you can see that there's something between this can and my hand.
Yeah.
There's something
yeah,
in between
yeah,
here.
Yeah.
You can't see it. We just call it air, but it
Yeah.
takes up space.
Yeah.
So space is the most fundamental element that we can get to.
Okay.
Out of the
but
5 elements, it's
there-
space.
Okay,
right?
There's something though that makes me want to say, I listened to David Icke.
Yeah.
And David Icke says that our human eye has limitations of what it can see.
Yeah. You got the water on?
Oh, we got to turn this, sorry.